Sono qui al Caffè del Teatro con Cihat Askin. La pronuncia right? Pronunciation?
Yes.
Okay, very good. And so, what about your experience here in Alba? Is it the first time for you in Alba?
This was my first time.
First time,
Alba
so.
Festival. It's a fantastic city. In the first sight, I just got the impression it's a lovely and historical city with a lovely people around it. And then actually, I have known the name of Alba because historically it's an important city, a Roman city. And yesterday I arrived just before the rehearsal. After finishing rehearsal, just made myself around a little bit. Today, actually, I found some time to explore the city. There are historical monuments, and I'm also interested in archaeology. And my father-in-law is a well-known archaeologist in Istanbul, in Turkey. So I promised him to visit the archaeological museum. Hopefully tomorrow I will do that.
Oh, great. Okay, very good. And so you're here to play Mendelssohn.
Yes.
What about this concert, the Mendelssohn concert for violin?
Mendelssohn Concerto is one of the first examples of romantic tradition of violin concertos. Mendelssohn himself was a romantic composer. Actually, he was a child prodigy like Mozart. When he was little, he composed so many wonderful pieces. For example, the other one is Violin Sonata F minor, Opus number 4. He composed it when he was 14 years old.
Yeah.
When you look at his compositional style, you think he's, gradually well-known, educated composer and then older composer. But, as a child prodigy, he contributed the world of music with wonderful symphonies, string symphonies. And violin concerto is a wonderful work with complete form. For example, before Mendelssohn concerto, we have, of course, great concertos like Beethoven, also Viotti-style violin concertos, classical concertos. But Mendelssohn was the first to break this tradition. For example, in a classical concerto like Mozart or Beethoven concerto, the violin soloist waits for the solo entrance with all the themes repeated by the orchestra. But this concerto, violin starts immediately with this wonderful romantic melody, amazing melody. And actually, this concerto was written with the help of his friend Ferdinand David. I'm also interested in Ferdinand David's work. David was a great influence on Mendelssohn, and actually, he was the concertmaster of Leipzig Gewandhaus Orchestra, Mendelssohn conducted. So, when you see the history of violin concertos like Beethoven, Brahms, Mendelssohn, or other concertos, Bruch, there are composers and violinists behind it. In this case, Ferdinand David was the driving force. In Beethoven concerto, Franz Clement was. Like Brahms and Bruch, it was Joseph Joachim. But this was before Joachim. It was the starting of great Germanic tradition of Joachim, his teacher Ferdinand David.
And do you like to play Mendelssohn and this kind of music, or you have other favorites periods, or?
Yes, I have played all of the great concertos like Beethoven, Brahms, Tchaikovsky, Sibelius, Bruch, and some other violinistic composers like Wieniawski, Piotr, and this works, I have played with orchestras many times. Of course, Mendelssohn has something special, as always we say.
He was a very talented composer, very romantic, but classical as well, very connected to the past.
Yes, this era, the beginning of the 19th century is a crossing point from classical tradition to romantic. But I always consider the Mendelssohn, Schubert, and some of the Beethoven's late works as romantic era, because it really giving the sparkling light of the a romantic composer that has never been seen before.
Okay. So I'm curious to know, what about playing this music in general, so classical music, romantic music, is there any special trick, any special arrangement of your styles? Or?
I mean, there are many views about it. For example, there are performers who perform according to the tradition, like scholarly. There are performers, they perform, with just sincere approach, how they want. Actually, I tried both in my profession. After a while, as a child, I learned everything, but after a while, I started searching different things, like violin history and performance practice in the 17th century, 18th century, 19th century, etc. And I came to a conclusion that we can all learn from this great treatises and articles, great musicologists wrote. But since you are a performer, I think you have to play your own music. For example, I understand Mendelssohn in my perception. So I have to perform it from my point of view. And I cannot say who plays true Mendelssohn or true Beethoven, true Bach. It is very difficult, really. I mean, the people, performance, who claims that, they are really giving the best, pure performance of Baroque style or, with periodical instruments, I think they're all different. They all different comments on that. So it's important to give the musical thought of what you understand from the composer's view.
Oh. And what about your instrument, your violin? Which one do you play?
I have several violins. Actually, I mostly perform my viol. Jean-Baptiste viol is a French instrument which was modeled on Paganini Il Canone instrument. I have others. I have Gaetano Sgarabotto. I can consider as a modern violin, 100 years old now, made in Vicenza in 1924. I also use it in my concerts, chamber music and orchestral concerts. I have some other modern violins, but two violins are really important for me. And for Alba, I brought my favorite one, viol. Jean-Baptiste viol is here.
Do you alternate them? You play some
Yes,
time?
yes. I alternate. I mean, according to the concert hall you play, according to concert important concert you play. If you want to play with Sgarabotto, you are looking for a more dramatic sound, a soprano sound, a kind of soprano approach. When I play with my viol, I look for a kind of baritone tenor sound. It's quite different. So, when I use different halls, different atmosphere, different music, I vary time to time.
I see. And so, you come from Turkey, which is a very rich country in music, so you have many popular tradition, but also interesting music in general. So how can you explain in simple words how...
Turkey is an interesting country. It's a bridge country between East and West. For example, it is the eastern border of Europe and western border of Asia. So the people, for many ages, they came, they used the land and they passed. Actually, Turkey is is a birthplace of two ancient civilizations. I call it, for example, Eastern civilization, Mesopotamian civilization. This is the birthplace of the world because, when you look at the history of the ancient biblical philosophies, they were all born in Mesopotamia. Also, the birthplace of Hellenistic civilization. The Western society claims that this is the birthplace of Roman civilization. Western Turkey, Anatolia. The land is very fruitful. There have been many civilizations, starting from Hittites till today. I call it a kind of richness. Because of this richness, I use lots of folk music elements. For example, of course, I'm a classical violinist, but I composed many interesting works which combines East and West together. I don't call it fusion, but it's okay in a classical style, but like folk songs arranged by myself for violin and piano, and also the relations between Western music is quite rich and quite interesting. Like 200 years ago, as Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart stated in his works like Abduction from the Seraglio and like Turkish March, Allah Turca, and also Beethoven used Turkish March, the ideology of this military music, Janissary music is quite important. And also another point of view, the relations with Italian music is quite important because next year, 2026, is this 200th anniversary of Western music introduced to Ottoman Palace. In 1826, Mahmud II, then the Sultan, the king, invited the brother of Gaetano Donizetti to Istanbul. Giuseppe Donizetti was a bandmaster, orchestral conductor. He established the first orchestral band in the palace. So he worked there until he died, 1857, and he is buried now in Saint Esprit Chapel in Istanbul. After him, his student Callisto Guatelli, another Italian conductor and teacher, became the head musician of the Sultan in the palace. He continued the same tradition. These two composers are quite important for our music history. And in 1826 is the birth year of Presidential Symphony Orchestra. So I'm hoping, in 2026 there will be, huge celebrations about this.
Yeah, and also it influenced a lot all the Mediterranean music, like Napolitan Tarantella is strongly derivative.
Yeah, I mean, we have lots of dances in different regions, in different cities of Turkey, because there's an imperial past. So people are from different race, different religions, different ethnic identities. They came together and they present their own culture. So it's a melted influence. We also have different rhythms. For example, in Western music, we have even rhythms like 2, 3, etc., 4, 6, something. But in Turkish music, we have uneven rhythms. We call it aksak rhythms, like 5, 7, 9, 11, etc. So it also gives another dimension to the rhythmical rhythms.
And did you start learning Turkish music or classical European Western music?
Well, we have conservatories in Turkey. Also, conservatories, teaching Western classical music, also the Turkish classical music. But my conservatory was a unique one. It was called Turkish Music State Conservatory. I learned both Turkish music, Turkish folk music, art music, and classical Western music together at the same time. Therefore, I was raised in, let's say, model, or we call it makam music, the tradition of makam music, and also Western music with harmonic and contrapuntal, functions, with orchestra, chamber music, but also Eastern ensemble. I can play both. I believe this is a kind of unique position because if you know two words, you can look at the world in a different way.
Okay. And how did you start to play violin?
I was in the primary. We had in Turkey we have primary education. Then it was started at 6 years and then till 11. I was 10 years old, 9 years old. I was interested in music. I probably saw in television or I listened somewhere. So I was always showing interest in performing music in the primary school. I was conducting the choir, for example. I don't know how I did it. So I was trying to compose music. My father and mother, when I showed interest in music, one day they gave me a present. It's a little mandolino. So mandolin is a very nice instrument in Turkey. We used to start with mandolino. And so I was very happy and I just jumped around, this is a wonderful instrument. I tried to learn and my primary school teacher taught me 3 notes, do, re, mi. That's all. And then, she told me that, you can learn the rest. So I started learning the rest, of course. And, also my father took me to a local music society. Turkish music players were using local tunes. I saw a violinist. He was playing wonderful tones he was having. I was in love with the sound and the sight of the instrument. I said to my father, I'm going to play this instrument. So after a few weeks, they bought me a violin. I started learning by listening to them, but it was very brief, few months. Later on, I entered the conservatory exam and I won. So I started in the conservatory.
And what about your first concert? Do you remember?
Yes, I remember my first concert. My violin teacher, Ayhan Turan, he was a Turkish teacher, but he was, after finishing his university degree in Turkey, he came to Santa Cecilia Conservatory in 1950s or beginning of 60s. He was a student of a great Italian violinist, Lilia Dalbore. A great tradition. He remembers watching Giacomo De Vito and great Arrigo Serrato, maybe, it was not at the time. And then, he was very exciting, he excitedly, explained us about this great tradition. He was a member of Vivaldi Orchestra, and then he came back to Turkey. He started doing concertizing, but because of illness, he gave it up. He started becoming a teacher. He encouraged us to, play in a group lesson. He was always having a class lesson, atelier lesson. He tried his own new method on us. It was a kind of, fast progress. I started, I was 11 years old. After 2 or 3 months, I was able to play Bach sonata movement. It was in a school, secondary school concert hall. I remember playing Bach Allegro from the sonata number 2, A minor, La minor, and I remember this concert. So
Great.
Later on, started Paganini Capriccios and other things.
And now, before playing, are you nervous, anxious, or you just keep it?
It changes time to time, and according to player to another player. There are some people, they say, I don't have any stage fright, but I don't think it's true. So everyone should have something in his or her soul about concert anxiety. I had times in my past, I was really scared, but later on, I found out that this is a kind of feeling we are creating. I also have an academic title. I'm a professor in Advanced Music Research Center in Istanbul Technical University. I was conducting doctoral degrees. One of my students, she wrote a doctoral thesis on performance anxiety. And she searched many musicians. Among them, there were jazz musicians, authentic Turkish music players, and also classically trained musicians. And she found out that jazz musicians and local players didn't have any kind of stage fear, but the classically trained players, because in classical traditions we are taught to present our feelings in a frame. So when we try to put ourselves in a frame, then we actually, criticizing ourselves, and we try to be fit on that frame. So it makes us really scared. We are thinking too much. But later on, I observed jazz musicians or ethnic musicians. They can play, whatever they like. Okay, scholastic mentality is important. I don't deny it. But there should be a point that we should really allow ourselves to speak freely about our feelings. So later on my profession, I started creating my own sound, creating my own ideas. I tried to get rid of this frame.
So you feel more confident?
Yeah, because to be more confident. For example, when we look at the old performers like Vladimir Horowitz, Rubinstein, Heifetz, or Piatigorsky, they're all great performers, but probably they, like Alfred Cortot, who plays piano fantastically, when we look at today's performance, there is a huge difference. On that day, they all had a personality. They all had personal sounds, so they really created this personal sound by using the free mentality, free speech, free sound. So I think we should really turn on that point.
Is there any country abroad when you travel and play concert that you like in particular, so all around the world? Is there any?
You know, in every country, I have find similarities to my culture. Because, for example, when you go to Europe, of course, most of the time we travel in Europe, different concert halls, different audience, and you can really find similarities. Sometimes the audience are older, sometimes the audience younger. Of course, young audience always give us more cheerful response. I should say about Italy, I really like Italy very much because huge similarity between my country and Italy. And audience are very enthusiastic. Especially this morning, I played for children.
Yeah.
And school children, primary school children, preparatory school children, they came and they watched the concert, general rehearsal is a concert. So conductor and myself tried to speak to them about the pieces. And so, you know, I don't expect all of them to understand music, but at least few of them, 5 or 10 of them, would understand, would appreciate the classical concept of aesthetic idea. I think we can achieve our goal. Also in Turkey, we used to have this kind of programs. For example, I created my own project, Cihat, Askin and Little Friends project. More than 24 years I'm running this project. What I did really, you know, Istanbul, Ankara and Izmir, we have 3 big cities. But apart from these cities, I was interested in Anatolia, other region, other cities where they don't have a kind of classical music comfort really. I searched for talented children, talented teachers as well. After my concerts, I stayed there extra few days. I tried to connect with a network to these wonderful teachers. So try to organize master classes. Over the years, I established 18 projects, 18 cities. So it was really fascinating to see the children growing, and then they formed a children orchestra. For example, in Afyon, there's a town near Izmir, but they didn't have any classical music culture. We first created children orchestra there. So maybe 2 of them are continuing with classical music. The others now performing other things, you know, like, you know, science, you know, social science or doctors, etc. They go to university to work, but at least they have classical music aesthetic.
I see. Very good. Thank you very much for this interview.
Thank you. It was a great pleasure
to
make this interview with you.
Thank you,
Mr. Baskar. Thank you. Thank you for listening to us.